This is part 3 of Civil 3D for landscape architects. In the last video, we did a site analysis, and now we're ready to start doing a site design. But first I need to just W-block the site analysis and turn it into a base. I prefer to do these first iterations by hand, so I'm just going to set up a quick print and draw over this. I've gone ahead and used the light table to draw over that sketch and scanned it in. Now, I didn't use my fancy chart pack markers or anything. It was just Sharpie and highlighters just to get the job done here. And you notice when I bring it in, the scan was a little faded, so I did an adjustment layer, and I just pulled this black slider up until the blacks looked black. Then I created a mask with just a magic wand and select similar to get rid of the background. I added a red background so I could clean this up a little bit. And for when I bring it in, I added a stroke. And now with the red background, you can see I can clean up this mask just a little bit. Now we'll turn the red off and I'll export this as a PNG. Just call this Park Sketch Edited. And then now we can bring this into Civil. On the XREF panel, on the drop down here, we can select Attach Image. We can select our image here and just eyeball it first. I do have reference points, and I'll show you the reason I made a mask is we can turn this background transparency on. Now we can see everything kind of a little more clearly for what it is. So I did make a point to mark the high and low points so we can use those as reference points to scale this drawing, because it is not the scale, the scan. So we'll just do scale reference point to low point here, snap to that. All right, so I want to work on just getting this design traced in. All right, so we'll save this, and I'm going to be using Photoshop, so we'll get that started up. And the way that I do this is to create live connections basically to PDFs of this. We need to break this out into these tabs, basically into how we would have layers. Go to the Page Setup Manager. For now, I'm just going to use the, let's see, DWG to PDF. And we'll set the page size here to 24 by 36, Arc D. I prefer landscapes. It's good. For the plot style, we can just use the default ACAD, and we can make any changes to it as we need on the fly. If you're working for a company, you probably have your own CTB. With the title block quickly laid out here, I'm going to now break this out into a few layers, and we're going to rename this, call this the base layer. Now I can just use the layout command and use copy, and we're going to copy this base layout into, and I know I need a few Photoshop layers off the bat, and those will be like the aerial. We'll need one for just general hardscape buildings. I'm going to do 2 tree layers. One is going to be the existing trees. One is going to be the proposed trees. And when you're doing a command over and over again, you can just press the up arrow to repeat it. The survey, can't forget about the topography. So I got the aerial, the topo, survey, proposed trees, existing trees, buildings, and hardscape. I'm just going to save this real quick. We'll go into our tabs and clean these up so that they actually have the things that we say they are. So I'll just delete everything except for the viewport here. And inside of here, the aerial layer is actually frozen. So we'll go up to the aerial layer and unfreeze it. Now the quickest way to turn all these off except for the aerial is to just come into the layer manager, hit Control A, select all, then holding down Control, select aerial, it deselects it. Then you can do BP freeze. That is it for this tab. We can next one do the same thing, only we're going to get topography. For the topo layer, we just want to open up the layer manager, and on the XREF manager, we're going to point it at the XREFs here, and we'll just deselect everything that's not the topo. We can freeze that. Then under the XREF layers, we'll go up, select everything. Now here we also want to make sure we don't select 0, and we also don't select XREF. Then freeze all that. This is the outline for our perk sketch. So we want to unload that, otherwise it will print that border. We can put it on a layer, a non-plot layer. We don't want to detach it. Let's make a non-plot layer. And I prefer a magenta color for that because it just stands out a whole lot. And then we can just turn off that no plot layer. Here we are missing our labels. Just unfreeze everything. There's a handy tool to see what layer things are on in XREF, and it's XList. Run it inside of this viewport here, and then if we just click on something, I just clicked on the contour and it shows the surfaces on C topo. Let's see if I click on label here, C topo text. And now I'll just fast forward as I go through making the rest of the tabs. All right, now to get these tabs and drawings into Photoshop, we will use the publish command, and under publish, we'll do a PDF. Preset, we'll do the high quality print. The options, we just want to point this towards, let's make a new folder. I'm going to first make a Photoshop folder, then we'll get into layers. We want to make sure we don't prompt for name, we don't multi-sheet. We want each one of these tabs to print as its own PDF named as it is shown. Lines over right, we can exclude these check marks, hit OK. Precision, I do for civil engineering. Whatever you choose, you just need to be consistent because it will change the pixel quality just ever so slightly. I never do publish in background just because it seems to be much slower. Open in viewer when done. We're going to not check that because we don't need to inspect these. We're just going to pull these into Photoshop. Once we pull them into Photoshop, they will automatically update as we print them. You usually end up printing this list many times, so for the sake of brevity, we'll just hit publish. In Photoshop, let's start a new 24 by 36 document. And under File, to bring in our layers, we're going to do Place Linked. And now we can place, select the aerial first. The only option we have to worry about is this Crop To. Instead of bounding box, we want to select Media Box. And that's going to select that whole 24 by 36 sheet. So I'll hit OK. And you'll see it has the outline of the entire 24 by 36 sheet. So that allows us to bring these in, and we can basically just stack them. You don't need to bring the base in because that was just a CAD reference, but every time you do this, you do have to check Media Box. And see, we don't even have to line them up. When we do the Media Box, it lines them up for us. I do like to use groups a whole lot and colors. So we'll grab the trees and the shrubs and we'll group those into a vegetation group. Make it green, of course. I did notice, now that we've printed this, the Arial is faded, and I don't want the Arial to be faded when we print it. And we'll republish. Since it's just one, I'll just do Arial. And now you'll get your first glimpse at how this auto updates. Bada boom. See, I didn't click anything. Just switch back here to Photoshop, and now I have full control over the opacity here. One thing I like to do is just pop on auto tone, auto contrast, see how those look. Those didn't actually improve the quality of it, I thought. So we'll look at levels instead. Usually like to brighten these up a little bit. That looks good to me. Then we'll just fade it back a good bit. Usually around 33% is good. And we'll just turn that off for now. One thing you'll notice is that the topo has text boxes on it, which I do not like. So we'll turn those off real quick. And we need to select our labels here. And you'll see this little stick thing in here. That is something we can turn off. I don't know why that's even an option and why the default is on, but we want to turn that off. And then we want to turn our background mask off. We can edit the style. Under layout, here we have background mask set to true. No, we'll change it to false. Hit apply. Hit OK. Now save our XREF, close it, reload our XREF. Let's not compare the changes though. Publish the topo, and that got rid of our little masks. But one thing we do need to do is let's separate the topo and the topo labels. So now we can publish those two, and we'll add, place a linked. And now that we have that separated as a layer, we can stroke them. And that's a little bit of a nicer label graphically. Looks like we got a screwy label there. For the color layers, I'll just create a new layer and we'll do like X tree color. Using the magic wand, I can now select all my vegetation areas, my tree areas, and I'm just going to fill this in with black. And now that it's black, we'll go into the blending options and do a color overlay. And this is where you can select any color that you want. We'll do kind of this muted green. We'll look at stacking some more effects later, but it helps to kind of see everything on the sheet before you try and stylize it a whole lot. Now for our proposed trees, we'll turn off the existing and we'll turn off the shrubs. Click on the proposed layer. Using the magic wand, I'll click out here in the white space. You'll see that selects everything outside of the symbols. And I'll hit on the keyboard Control-Shift-I to inverse that. Now you see we have just the symbols selected. So now I'll make a new layer. We'll call this proposed tree color. Fill that with black. Control backspace to fill that. Then under our blending options, we will do our color overlay and we'll change that to a nice green, a little more color than the existing trees. Under bevel and emboss, you'll see this gives us kind of like a 3D effect, but kind of doesn't look quite right. So we'll adjust the size, bump it up. We take it all the way up. It kind of looks like a cone though, which might be good for an evergreen tree, but these aren't evergreen. So I'll dial it back just a hair from the top so it looks rounded but not conish. And I also like to adjust these highlights and shadows. The highlights just don't pop enough for me. I like to add a good bit more, so we'll take those up to 75. And the shadows, just knock those down a hair, down to 45, just so everything's not so dark. Oh, and then lastly, we will add drop shadow. And we kind of want these to be a hard shadow. So I'll take down the size and adjust the distance. For now, we can always adjust these later. And now we have our shrubs left to do. So I'll highlight the shrub layer. And again, we'll do the same thing where we use the magic wand, click outside, Control Shift I to inverse it. I'll make a new layer. We'll call that shrub color and fill that with black. Again, blending options, and we'll do color overlay. We'll make this kind of a different color, green. I usually don't do bevel and emboss on these. Just the scale of things usually doesn't work out to where it looks good, but we can add a drop shadow. And then I'm just going to pull everything back on, take a look at it with everything turned on, see how it's coming together. All right, so now let's look at the building. Let's turn all this stuff back off. Do the same routine where we select out the white space, make a new layer, building color, inverse the selection, fill it, and then blending options, and we can do a color overlay. Kind of like a light brick red, kind of looks good for building roofs. So now my roof is tinted. I always like bringing striping in as its own layer because we don't even have to do anything to it. We can just do a color overlay, turn that baby into yellow. All right, now let's make a asphalt layer. That'll be the roadway. All right, now do the same thing and blending options. Give this a nice color overlay. I think of asphalt as being a cool gray and concrete as being a warm gray. So I'll go for just kind of like the lightest bluish, purplish kind of, right in about this area, kind of gray. So I'm not going full gray down at the bottom. I'm giving it the tiniest little bit of color. To help this pop, I'm going to turn this into kind of a sepia color. And apparently to be a sepia color, we have to change our mode to RGB to do a black and white adjustment. So then we'll just black and white, and you can use these to kind of adjust the visual quality. And then I want to add a photo filter, adjustment photo filter. And this is the warming filter that we want, 25, and just play with it. See what it looks like with or without it. And let's go back to that black and white filter. And let's turn down the opacity of this black and white filter so it's not completely washing everything out. I just want it mostly washed out. So let's do like 50%. And you can see the difference we're getting here. And since our background faded a little bit, it looks like we can bump up our existing trees a little bit from 20. I'm going to give this inner glow just to enhance this a little bit. I want to be a nice green. Just kind of like a highlight outline to pop it a little bit. And if you don't like the green, you could do a yellow, brighter yellow. I think I like that better. And then we need to just fill in the rest of our ground plane. We need some labels, we need some text. Another feature I'll add on this is a layer mask for the aerial. And I'm going to use the brush tool and feather it out a bit, turn down the hardness that is. So up and down goes hardness, left and right goes size. So 50% hardness, and I'm going to take this down to about 1,000 pixels. And with the layer mask on, I'm just going to paint this to kind of fade out the sides. A little too much on that one. If you click once, then move your mouse up and hold down Shift and click again, it does that straight line effect. So you don't have to like try and mouse over it. You just click, Shift, click, and it goes straight across. And that just helps soften the graphic up. I think we're still missing a key thing here, and that's the property line. So let's go back to our model tab here. Now we need some labels. The way I prefer to do labels, because Photoshop does not have a good tool for doing pretty looking leaders. You can add arrowheads to these and use the pen tool, but it's so much more effort than using the M leader tool here in AutoCAD. All right, we'll come in to our text group, place a linked, add the ANO, media box. And if you like to stylize these even further from here, you could add a like a white stroke around the black text. Take it a little further, you can even do an outer glow with a white. Kind of just like put little soft highlights behind them. The point of this really is just to show you the workflow, not so much to nail everything about this project perfectly. Hopefully, it can unlock some pathways for you and how your workflows are holding up. I almost didn't save this. I can't believe I did that whole video without saving this. So we will save this in the Photoshop and just name it concept plan. So now that the graphic is complete, I'm going to come back and look at the colors again and just make some tweaks. Now I'm a little more pleased with the colors. I do find it can be hard to nail down the colors as you work through it, so it's important to come back once the graphic is complete and sort of reanalyze your colors. And as you saw, I had to dial down the saturation on mine a bunch. Again, it's not the most perfect park design, and you probably see a bunch of things you do differently, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time with this design, it was mostly just to show you the workflow, and I'm sure you can see ways to improve it, but this is how I've been working for many years and have done many successful projects with this whole overall workflow. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure you check out the next one here that YouTube has handpicked just for you.